People joining us in a few minutes. What's good to report this week? Anything good? We woke up. Let's see. We have among us, we have an anniversary on the 23rd for Mike and Gwenda Brantley. Congratulations. How many decades? Ask them. David and Susan, anniversary this week. Oh, you just remembered. Oh, okay, David. Thanks for the reminder. We have to watch out for each other. Well, good. Everybody's healthy. Eye report, everything's good. Okay. We have cataracts going on. All right, we've got an interesting story this week. I'll put that there. Back in 1959, the Saturday Evening Post Gwenda, did you read Saturday Evening Post quite often back then, Gwenda? Yeah. I remember reading it quite a bit growing up. You know, it's a popular magazine. But anyway, 1959. You remember Roy? Okay, great. There was a novel published in the Saturday Evening Post called True Grit. And you remember the story. I think it was Molly. Is it Molly Ross? Maddie Ross? Okay, Maddie Ross wanted to avenge her dad's death because he was murdered by Frank something or other. Too many facts in here, I can't remember them. Anyway, but she wanted justice, but he ran off from Arkansas into Indian Territory in Oklahoma. So she had to find somebody to help to revenge her dad's death. So she was asking about U.S. Marshal Rooster Cogburn. And she learned that he was a pitiless person, double tough, and just fear never entered his mind. And of course, you know, in 1969 came out the movie True Grit. John Wayne. You know, he's grisly, he's caustic, he's just a rough and tough guy. Nobody could play that guy better than John Wayne. Well, we have a person entering our story today that really has true grit, and that's Elijah. So in chapter 17, we are introduced to Elijah. And he's addressing Ahab. Oh, one thing I was going to mention, that's what I was trying to think. I'm not going to skip around today. So we're doing 17, 18, and 19 straight through. He's speaking to Elijah. He's speaking to Ahab. Elijah, yes. Good old breeze. As the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, I'm going to stop right there. He's give Ahab some bad news. Now, who's Ahab? King of Israel. If we remember, he is just the worst of the worst. Total idols worship is going on. Baal. So here he is going to tell the man in charge, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine east of Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have ordered the ravens to feed you there. So the ravens, he went there. He's obeying God. The ravens are going to feed him morning, meat in the morning. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning. Well, first, what's your question? What kind of meat is a raven going to bring Elijah? Have you? Pardon?
Chicken fried steak.
Probably so. That's what I thought. Good old Texas chicken fried steak. Yeah, really. Frogs, crickets, they're full of protein. So he lived there for a time being until the brook dried up because there's no rain in the land. So the Lord, in verse 8, says, Then the word of the Lord came to him, Go. I have commanded a widow in that place to supply you with food. So he goes and finds a widow, and he says, Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I have a drink? And bring me, please, a piece of bread. But what was her reply?
She didn't have much. She was going to go home and fix that for her son and then let him back.
Exactly. They're in a drought. She's a lady, has a son. And she doesn't have really enough for them.
This is the same one supplying manna to the ones in the desert that time for 40 years.
Good point.
And we wonder, it's a great. Where's all this coming from? Duh. That's a word that used to be at 59. Duh.
Duck. Elijah says, Don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of the hour will not be used up, and the jug of the oil will not run dry until the day of the Lord gives rain on the land. So there was food for every day for Elijah and the woman and her family. Did not run dry. And then they had another situation with the widow. The widow's son died. He stopped breathing. And she said to Elijah, What do you have against me, man of God? Do you come to remind me of my sin and kill my son? What's her state of mind? Good. What's going to happen to her? What's in our minds when we're thinking that our child will die? What kind of sin does she have? Well, we really don't know. It could be prostitution. If her son dies, I'm not quite up on the aspect of what the customs would be for a single mother in those times. Does anybody know? But anyway, it'd be worse. So Elijah says, "Give me your son." He took him from the arms and carried him to the upper room. Then he cried out to the Lord, "O Lord my God, have you brought tragedy upon this widow with whom I'm staying with by causing her son to die?" And he cried out again, "O Lord my God, let this boy's life return to him." The Lord heard Elijah. Sidestep. The Lord hears us in our prayers. We've seen that. We know that. And it's telling us again. Now I know that you are a man of God, and the word of mouth from your mouth is the truth. So the boy's life returned. So going back up a little bit, he said he stretched out on the boy 3 times and cried to the Lord. That's what we said. I know it's serious, but 3 times. I know y'all thinking this is probably where CPR first came in. Pumping the cow. And then Elijah is sent to Ahab. In the 3rd year, the word of the Lord. I love that. It's not the first time, not the second time, but we read, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain. So, Obadiah, we read about Obadiah in chapter 18, verse 2. Oh, we just went from 17 to 18. And Obadiah is given a mission. Ahab says, all right, well, I need some food for my horse and such. We're going to scatter out. You're going to take this area, and I go that area. And guess who he meets? Elijah. Elijah tells him, go tell Ahab. Go tell Ahab I want to meet with him. Obadiah is just not with it. He is scared. I mean, he works in the palace, and he's afraid of Ahab and his wife, Jezebel. But he goes back. Go in verse 7, or roughly 7, he says, go tell your master, Elijah is here. So that is done. Down in verse 16. So Obadiah went to Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to Elijah. And when he saw Elijah, he said to him, I don't know if it's not my favorite verse in the Bible, but sure it's certainly is memorable. Is that you troubler of Israel? And basically, Elijah says, stop, talk to the hand. It's not me, it's you. You're the one that's caused this inflation. You're the one that's caused these taxes to rise. I can't buy a whole tank of gas. It's you. You're running our country. Totally. Following the wrong little g gods. Israel is going in the wrong direction. We probably could say this earlier, but when the kings are going in the wrong direction, what does God do? He always presents a thorn to the king. And this is Elijah. God always responds to our needs. So Elijah says, since you have abandoned the commandment of the Lord, summon all the people from all Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel. Bring the 450 prophets of Baal, the 400 prophets of Asherah, and who eats at Jezebel's table. Bring them. He's bringing a challenge. And he's talking to the people. How long will you waver between two opinions? What's the two opinions? God and Baal. God and Baal. What did the people say? Why do they say nothing? Afraid to speak up? Afraid that we're going to be harassed? Jailed? All right. So Elijah in verse 22 sets a proposal test. I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let them choose one for themselves, and let them cut it in pieces, put it on wood, but don't set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull in the same manner. Then you will call on the name of your God. I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire, he is the God. Okay, the people are saying this is good. So what happens? In verse 26. So they took the bull, given them, prepared. The Baal's priest, he said, "O Baal, answer us," they shouted. There was no response, no answer, and they danced around the altar they had made. Hunter, you ever been in a basketball game or a football game against an opponent? Do they play quietly? What do they do? What do your opponents do? You're on the free throw line and you're fixing to shoot a free throw. What are they going to say? You're a mama. Don't they? Bleep, 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 bleep. You've heard some bleeps out there. I tell you what. Can you get this out of Elisha? He says, y'all need to shout louder. Maybe Baal's asleep because there's no fire going on. Maybe he's out getting a cup of coffee. So he is mocking him. This is funny. He mocks them. That was verses 26 through 29. And it went on and on and on. So jumping down to verse 30. Elijah said to all the people, "Come here to me." They came to him. He repaired the altar of the Lord, which was in ruins. Naturally. Ahab. Elijah took 12 stones, one for the tribes that descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, Your name shall be Israel. With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. He dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 sets of seed. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, laid it on the wood. He directed them to fill 4 large jars with water and poured it on the offering on the wood. He did it 3 times. At the time of the sacrifice, the water ran down the altar and filled this trench. At the time of the sacrifice, Elijah stepped forward and prayed. He's modeling things that should be going on constantly by the Lord's commandments. We know this ourselves, that we go and pray.
Question. Where did they get that water when it was so dry?
What's the words? The Lord provideth.
You got to know where the mountain is.
Okay, give us.
Fall down into the big sea.
True. Very good, thank you.
That's a long trip to haul water.
Very good. I didn't see that. Thank you for pointing that out. I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, O Lord. Answer me. So that these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, our God, and that you're turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell, burned up in sacrifice, the wood, the stones, the soil, and he picked up the water in the trench. The people saw this. They fell prostrate and cried, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." What happens next? Baal's priests are slain. What happens next? The rain ends the drought. What happens next? What is Ahab thinking? There's the true God. He's had his own lessons from the past. That's how we learn things from our tradition. Any thoughts of what he's thinking? What is Ahab thinking at this point?
He says, I got to go back home to Jezebel.
He's running back to the boss, isn't he? But did he momentarily have the idea of just turning everything? The people know who God is, but is there a moment he says, "We're going to do right"? But no.
You know, Elijah had to put his total trust in God because he's the only one left. These people had killed all the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's there and he does what Paul and so many others does. You are the one that killed Christ. Standing on the ground that God's going to protect him, which he did. And that's what we as Christians on this side of the cross fail to understand, that God is the same as he was then. He hadn't changed. He will protect you.
Yes.
I'm not talking about jumping out from a truck.
He is the same. Remember that thought. We might come back to it. Probably will. We'll circle around. He goes back and tells Jezebel everything. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah. "May the gods deal with me, be it so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." So in chapter 19, well, that was chapter 19. Verse 3. Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. He went into the desert and prayed that night. I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. The story changes. What mistakes is Elijah making?
Not trusting God.
At this moment, he's not trusting God. Previously, how many times did we say, Charlie, the word of the Lord? And told Elijah to do this and do that. But here, he ran on his own. Mistake. He forgot what Roy is saying. God is the same that day at the same time that he performed those miracles. He made a mistake. He reacted. He ran. God is no less powerful at this time and versus the time that at Mount Carmel. Gave up. We gave up on God. We're human, and all of us are pretty experienced in life. We've got some young'uns over there that are on their trek. She said, whenever we reject God, it never turns out good.
I don't think we talk enough about the Jezebel spirit. Jezebel was mean, evil, and she controlled a lot. We have the Jezebel spirit in a lot of folks today.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it.
Okie dokies.
You know, that doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
It starts out, we get upset about something, and we say, well, I'm not going today. And then it just escalates, and before you know it, we're not going at all.
It builds and builds and builds. The angel touched him and said, get up and eat. Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. God is telling him he's got a task for him. Verse 9, and the word of the Lord came to him saying, what are you doing here? Let me back up. It says, then he went into the cave and spent the night. And the word of the Lord says, what are you doing here? What are you doing here, Elijah? God is turning to a lawyer. He's not going to ask a question that he doesn't already know the answer. He replied, I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, broken down the altars, put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too. What's the next mistake Elijah's making? This,
Feeling sorry for himself?
bingo. He's feeling sorry for himself. Pride starts getting in the way. He's starting to say, I'm the only one left. I've done all these tasks. Maybe his pride is getting too big. His pants are getting too big. But he forgot that he has a special relationship with the Lord. He was not thinking clearly. So, verse 13 of chapter 19. Well, let me back up. You're saying, well, what happened? The Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Then a great and powerful wind tore through the mountains, shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. What's the message? What's the message? I mean, Elijah heard it. He pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Again, the voice says, what are you doing here, Elijah? He has this narcissistic attitude again. I'm the only one left. Now they're trying to kill me too. The Lord said, go back the way you come. Go back. Anoint Hazael as king. Go find Elisa, and point him to succeed you as the prophet. He follows his directions. At the end of the book, chapter, Elisa puts down his work clothes. He took his oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people. They ate. Then he set out to follow Elijah and become his attendant. Elijah comes in. Elijah goes out. End of chapter 19. Closing thoughts that you're going to have to speak up for 11 minutes. What are you thinking, Scott?
Here in 19, we're talking about the wind, earthquake, and the fire, and God wasn't in those things. But after that, he was in the whisper. And, you know, sometimes we might expect God to be the big thing, and we look for him in the big things, and sometimes he's really just the small thing that we're missing.
The whisper.
We need to wait for the small things.
Okay. Anyone in this area?
It's amazing that as close a relationship as he had with God, he kept having struggles with his faith. That he could take care of.
You know, it kind of reminds me of when Peter got off the boat, and as long as he kept his eyes on the Lord, he stayed on the water, but as soon as he took his eyes off the Lord, he began to sink. And I think with Elijah, it's kind of the same way. He was doing fine because he kept his eyes on the Lord, but as soon as he started looking around at what was going on, then he began to lose his faith and become weak, and that kind of reminds me of that.
We tend to try to make everything like we are hard to do for the Spirit of the Lord. Oh, we get so carried away trying to figure out how to rock
Anyone want to follow that thought? Maybe you didn't hear him. Why do we doubt? We know Jesus came. He left the tomb, not through the rock. And he presented himself to his followers.
Just like she said, when they lost their faith, like Peter saying, they lose their way. There's gray areas that we put ourselves in, and I like what happened right there before the demonstration. When it takes this for us too. He went to the people and said, if you want to be with God, be with God. If you want to be with Baal, be with Baal. And sometimes we don't look at things that simply. We want to put divisions of gray instead of God says, if you're going to be with me, be with me. And get busy doing it. If you're going to be with Baal, get busy doing it. And I think that we don't look at things that way.
Yeah. If you're going to be with me fully. Not part-time.
John, I can still see Bid McKnight standing in the pulpit with his Bible in one hand, his other hand out here, and he says, you can't live life with a beer in one hand and a Bible in the other. You got to bit one way or the other. I don't know why that stuck with me, but I can still see him standing up there using that example. So, what Charlie said, that reminded me of
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
John, I think God's remedy for us today, when we get down and depressed, is the same recipe He gave him: rest, sleep. It gets nourishment, okay? And then, because a lot of times we kind of get our dogger down, and that's the recipe we need, is just to chill out and take some rest, and take some nourishment, and remember that He's God. And that's kind of where you found Him. I mean, He had a stressful day up with the altar, but look at all the running He's done. Because He stayed right up there with the chariot.
Mm-hmm.
He was wore out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, John, when Jezebel threatened him and he kind of lost his faith, I heard a young lady say one time that she wished she could always see herself as God sees her and not as she sees herself. I think that might be what Elijah did. He quit looking at himself the way God sees him as God helping him, and he started looking at himself the way he just looks at himself, like I'm mortal and I can't do this. But if we will always look at ourselves like God looks at us, which is really hard to do, then how can you not have strength if you look at yourself like God looks at you?
True. All right. Good words.
But you
Good.
know, Elijah was spectacular about that in Matthew at the Mount of Transfiguration when Jesus was praying, and the apostles saw Peter and them, and they saw Elijah and Abraham, and there was something there, that conversation, that they were there with Jesus at that moment, and maybe Elijah was sharing that fire that he had in his bones when he went up against those prophets, you know, kind of trying to help Christ prepare for when he was going to be on the cross. I don't know. I've always wondered what was their encouragement, what was their purpose there at that moment
True.
to appear before Christ, and
True.
for Peter and them to be able to recognize them.
If we quit wondering, then we're not searching, we're not believing, we're not studying, we're not wanting to gain more knowledge. John Rao, you always give me some words of wisdom. I didn't get to visit with you earlier, so what are the words of wisdom? Don't doubt the power of the Lord. Great. So, we end, Elijah had true grit. He was the man. The lesson's yours. Thank you. Next week, 20, 21, 22, and that concludes 1 Kings. Thank you.